things have changed. We've gone through a pandemic. We've gone through, like, some people have lost their jobs. And the only time you lose in real estate is when you're forced to sell during a low. In Canada, filing bankruptcy is not an option. Like, it follows you around for 10 plus years.
Hi everyone, I'm Jeff Slightham, broker of record, owner of Roy LePage Signature Realty, and I'm here with the one and only Cara Hirsch of Hirsch & Associates, a leader in the pre-construction industry. This is our first, we're very lucky to have her, this is our first real talk on new construction on Signature Insights. So we're very lucky to have you, and thank you.
Thank you for having me. You're making me blush on camera, but
Absolutely, absolutely. This is very cool. So we always like to start, give us a bit of your backstory. How did you get into the industry? And we'll take it from there.
It's a funny story. I was actually born and raised in real estate, but from Winnipeg, Manitoba originally. Nice. So from probably 10 years old, I would do model homes with my dad. He did new development. And he would sucker me into being the one that would tour them, and then the second bedroom would be the closing office. So you have this 10-year-old who's walking you through the home, you know, they're not feeling very intimidated, and then he would hard close them in the second bedroom in the office. So grew up doing that, and then he did a lot of actually lead gen, which was very uncommon back in the day when I was in high school. So I did a lot of lead gen with him, and essentially anyone that I converted, that I gave to him that converted to a sale, he would pay me. So I was very motivated in high school, so I did a lot of cold calling. So I grew up in it. So then fast forward, I used to work at Joey restaurants in Manitoba. I managed from a young age, and they flew us out here for Joy Don Mills actually to open. So I was here for 6 weeks at 21 years old, living in Yorkville, expenses paid, and came from Winnipeg. And you can imagine coming to Toronto, you're like, what is this? This is amazing.
Absolutely.
So then fast forward, I met my old boss who I worked with for 9.5 years, and that kind of got me into this industry, and started Hirsch & Associates in 2019. So it's been almost
Wow, that's all. Congratulations. That's a great story, great experience. Yeah. And so now, you got into the pre-construction 2019. The market's bumping along. So how did things roll there getting into 2019? How did you develop the relationships that you have now with your developer partners?
Yeah, I would say, I had a lot of relationships before starting my business. I was a key player in the company that I was in before. So I'd worked with a lot of the large developers, and my background, because I was in the restaurant, was customer service. I was known for dealing with customer complaints and all that. So I built regulars. That's what I did in the restaurant. So I kind of took that into the real estate industry and into my management leadership role within real estate, and built a lot of relationships through there. And then it was really just going out. Honestly, it was networking, like just meeting people through other people. I was probably never home, like pre-COVID. COVID was very weird for me because I didn't know how to be home because I was always out, and I was always networking and just building relationships. And it was honestly all the business we have had since starting the company has been all relationship based and referral based.
Fabulous. So you got out there, you just hit the ground running. Yeah. You didn't hesitate. You picked up the phone. You did exactly. Yeah. It's funny how the resale, whatever it is, sales in general, it's a contact sport, and you didn't hesitate. Congratulations. So we're going to get right into talking about condominiums in general right now. Obviously, being the market that we're in, the condo market that we're in right now, resale or pre-con, there's a lot of inventory coming on the market right now. What are some of the things you're seeing, with the record number of units that we're seeing delivered right now? What would your opinion be of the current state of the general high-level condo market? What do you see right now?
Listen, I don't like to be a negative Nancy, but I think anyone who tells you, oh yeah, it's great, is lying. Like, the reality is we have an oversupply, and it's simple economics, right? It's supply and demand. So we're in a buyer's market, especially in condominiums. We've seen record supply come to market last year, like deliveries, and this year is coming as well. I think I just read an article a few days ago, 60 months worth of supply on the market. I don't think, since I've been in the industry 15.5 years, I don't think we've ever had that much supply.
That's everything. You just say resale, pre-con, assignments.
But a very big portion of that is condominium. That's where we're seeing most of the deliverables.
Yes.
So the reality is, it is a challenging market right now. It's challenging for many aspects, from a developer standpoint of trying to get closings done, delivering, from people who have bought. Because again, when you're buying pre-construction, it was 4, 5, 6 years ago. Things have changed. We've gone through a pandemic. We've gone through, some people have lost their jobs. The market, not just interest rates, but even just getting a mortgage has become so much more difficult. So a lot of people are struggling with that. So there's so many aspects, taxes, we talk about all these things with the government. So there's so many aspects that I think are making it more challenging in the condo market. And I think there's so many aspects that need to change or need to be worked on before we're going to see it get better. But I mean, I think there is, like, it's challenging right now, but there is an opportunity. Like, if you can close and hold, because we know, again, supply and demand, we're not building like we were. So in a few years, you know, there's going to be a surge.
And so when in the, you know, as you said, during the pandemic, money, you know, interest rates dropped, you know, money was, call it, almost free.
Never cheaper.
Never cheaper. So a lot of people were getting it, and now rates have gone up, and you're saying now buyers are struggling a little bit to close. Is that weighted on what they paid for it and the evaluations they're getting now? Or is it the interest rates? Is it everything?
I think it's a lot of things, yeah. So I mean, like you said, money was never cheaper. It was almost too cheap. And I think for a lot of people, even though you were approved at the stress test, people didn't plan for it properly. You know, like my husband and I bought a house during COVID, and we knew, okay, it's 1.5% interest. This is never gonna last. Let's put extra money away because we know it's gonna go up soon. But that mentality doesn't happen with a lot of people. So I think there's a combination. Some people over leverage themselves. They should have never purchased. They purchased with the intent, I'm gonna flip, unfortunately. And the reality is the market was there, but the moment the market drops, you don't have that option. And you know that real estate's a long-term hold.
It is.
And the only time you lose in real estate is when you're forced to sell during a low.
Absolutely.
So, and that's what they're in that. Then there's the other option of, okay, the rates have gone up, but also the appraisals, like you mentioned about pricing. The problem now is the appraisals have gone down substantially. I think it's a combination of appraisers being more careful, but also like the resales, because there's people who are putting their units up on the market now that maybe own them for a few years. They don't really care. They're dropping the price because they need to get out. They can't afford it. And that unfortunately becomes a dominoes effect to everything that's occupying around that time.
That's great. So what are some of the best practices you're seeing right now for the agents that are doing transactions? What are some of their best practices, and what are the best things you're seeing in terms of the best way to communicate with clients?
I mean, I think
in this environment?
I think the biggest thing is keeping that relationship with your clients. Because for some agents, especially in pre-construction, they kind of do the deal and then they don't touch base again. I think keeping the relationship, reaching out to your clients prior to occupancy, prior to closing, you know, did you get the notice from the builder? Are you ready? Speaking with the builder, like I've been working with a few of our closings with different agents who we've been saying, here's our options. You know, we have a lot of the builders have either they've looked up blanket mortgage approvals, which have saved a lot of people. Whether it's not that, we have mortgage workers, we have different contacts that we'll help you with. And just really sitting down prior to occupancy so it's not a surprise. Because what I'm seeing a lot is a lot of people are going into it and then all of a sudden they're surprised because they're trying to get the mortgage and it's more challenging than they expected, or they're not getting approved because, you know, there's a lot of red tape now. So to be able to sit down with your clients and just help them. Because the reality is, especially if you're buying pre-con, if you're an agent, there's also a closing commission for you too, right? That we all want, especially in this market. So it's just
get to the finish line.
Yeah, get to the finish line and help them. And because I think long-term too, if you're there and showing them and supporting them. Listen, you can't do it all. Like I can't help someone close, but I can give them the tools and try everything I can to help them. I think long term, that's also going to create a really good relationship because they see that you're still there for them when they need you most.
Fabulous. So it's funny, you know, we talk to a lot of our agents as well. There's this intimidation right now whenever there's a shift in the market, and especially on the condo side of things, where there has been such a drastic shift. It's a little intimidating to call your clients right now because obviously they're feeling they have to point the finger at like, whose fault is this, right? It's not an easy conversation, but at the same time, as you're saying, you've got to be willing to talk to your client and get your client, as we said, to the finish line, because it is, as we were discussing before we got on camera here, the importance of closing and getting that finish line. And really, long-term real estate, and this is a whole other, investing in real estate is that you gotta have that long-term vision. It's not a 5-year thing. It's really I would say a 10 to 20 or more. You own it forever. It's generational.
Yeah, and if you look at the history of real estate, like it's always been long-term. And I think the problem is a lot of people, because we had such a great go at it, in their minds, real estate was risk-free. Like there was no risk to it.
No, you had a long run.
And I think it's educating clients, because to your point, I mean, I've been right now doing a lot of mediation between builders and clients trying to help get people closed. And I have those difficult conversations every day. And it's just kind of hitting facts with, they are trying to point the finger. They're trying to point the finger at the builder. They're trying to point the finger at their agent.
Sure.
But the reality is they had a 10-day due diligence period in buying pre-construction. You could have done your research. You could have gotten everything done. But also my one quote that I use all the time is, you know, do you buy stocks? And whether they do or not, I said, let's look at stocks for a second. Stocks go up and down constantly. Yes. When your stock drops, let's say it's with BlackRock, do you pick up the phone and call them telling them I want my money back? No, right? So it's kind of that conversation. I'm like, real estate's no different. Like, it's unfortunate. And we know this is just a blip. So as long as you can get through it and hold it, you will get your money out of it and it will go back up. So I think they're difficult conversations. They're not fun to have.
No.
But I think it's better than just ignoring the problem.
You've got to be there. Again, it's that long-term relationship you've got to have and focus to have with your clients. Again, real estate, not owning real estate is a long-term game, but being in this industry and working and being a salesperson is a long-term game. Have that vision to have that long-term relationship.
And the reality is, as agents and even for us, like selling for the builders, we've had it really easy for a long time. You know, we haven't had to do the typical, like if you go to any other country, usually you're working a lot harder for your deals. So unfortunately, it's now cut off with us a little bit that we got to do a little bit of work to
you got to build that you got to rebuild that relationship. That's excellent. So in terms of, I guess, next steps in our industry, and how are you seeing agents today? How are the agents you're working with today, how are you seeing them be successful? Where are they successful? What are their little niches? Where are you seeing them, and how are they navigating the market right now with their clients? Are the clients investor clients? Are they end users? Who are you seeing them working with, and where are they finding success?
Well, there's still some investors out there. The investors who have the money. So I would say we had a lot of entry-level investors before. I think these are the investors who have been around, they've been around the market for a while. A lot of them have funds or they have the cash and they see the opportunity because they know in a few years this market's going to come back. So let's pick up now. So I think finding those investors, if you have them, is great. But also it's definitely a very big end user market right now because the reality is an end user, like if you need a home, you need a home. Right? Exactly. And you're looking. And for a lot of people, they can't afford a home in the city of Toronto. So they're going to go into a condo as kind of their stepping stone. And there is a lot of opportunity to do so because there's a lot of really great prices right now. Whether you're buying through a builder direct, whether you're buying from an assignment, whether you're buying from something that closed, that's new, there's many opportunities. So I think as an agent, it's just kind of taking a step back because for a long time, they just focused on advertising. And I say like, you kind of like, you know, threw a ball against the wall or threw a stick, and you're like, okay, great, I got all these people and they're buying from me. It's not like that anymore. So it's really going out there and going back to like traditional, like cold calling. I know quite a few agents who have been door knocking, which sounds crazy, but back in like the 80s and the 90s, that's what my dad was doing and that's how he was successful, right? So it's building those relationships and watching the sale of maybe like focus on an area, if that's where you live or if it's something that you know really well, and just really hone in on that area and try to network and try to get into there and listings in one building. And once you sell, then like maybe it's that you send a mail out to all the other units in the building. Hey, I just sold this.
Absolutely.
You know, and like focusing on those little things, I think will go a long way instead of just, hey, I'm just going to throw up some ads on Google.
and it doesn't and be essentially an order taker.
Exactly.
And so again, I've got to ask, so with being the relationships you have with developers, what are kind of, if you have a client or for a new construction site, or what are kind of the incentives? What are you seeing agents asking for, and what can agents ask for from developers?
Yeah, I mean, I think every developer is different because it depends on their situation with the piece of land that they have. But I can tell you, I've been doing this 15 and a half years. I've never seen the incentives that they're offering right now. From a commission standpoint for some of them, from pricing, from deposits, from incentives. So I think everyone's expecting that when you go in, if you have a serious client, you can work out something. It usually, I'll give you the advice from a builder standpoint, is they look at everything as a whole. So if you're coming in, I'll just use an example, and you want 10% commission, plus you want 150,000 off the price, plus, they're going to look at that as what's that net price. So you have to give on something, right? So, you know, if it's more important, and I say this all the time, if you want high commission, but you're not going to get the sale done because the client's not going to get the price they want, give up a little bit so that you get the deal done because it's better than no deal at all. But really, they look at it as a whole. And I think right now, there's a big opportunity because there is that inventory out there to come in and to be able, really, I would say, I hate to say everything's in negotiation, but the reality is if the builder can do it and if they want the deal, like we'll come to the middle and work something out.
Because what I struggle with is, and I hear from developers and other sales and marketing teams, it's like, well, bring us an offer, then we'll work with it. Well, I need to know it. That's one thing, but just tell me exactly what the deal is, and then we'll do our best to work with it. Don't just say, bring us something and we'll try to work with it. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah, it makes sense. I think the struggle is a lot of developers have partners behind the scenes. So it's hard because it all depends on where they're at in the construction process, in like their loan, like are they at a position where they're like, listen, I got to start construction soon. I'm a little more desperate now.
They're motivated.
Yeah, they're more motivated, right? Or again, if there's a partner, like I've had it where I've brought deals that the builders themselves are like, great, I'll take it. And then the partner is like, nope, we're not going to accept it. So there's a lot of moving pieces to it. But I agree. And then the problem is when you're coming and they're saying, just bring me an offer, is for a lot of people are like, well, let's say your client's like,
here you go.
Yeah, but their client's like, I want 100,000 off the price. You're like, I don't know if I can do that. But I think it's just like working. And I think for us, from a sales perspective, from working with the builder, it's our job to kind of educate you. Like when I'm working with people to say, I think if we get around here, I can push it through the best of my knowledge. Right?
Excellent. No, this is great. So what are you seeing in terms, we touched on it a little bit, new and exciting opportunities that you're seeing right now in the GTA pre-construction market? Like the sites you're working with, the developers you're working with, what are the new and exciting things? Is it more low-rise? Is there some great high-rise, low-rise, mid-rise opportunities? Where is the opportunity right now?
I think there's in both. I think low-rise is definitely a little bit stronger right now, just because again, it's more of an end user focus. It's a quicker turnaround. It's people who are looking for homes. But even that, if you're not priced properly, you're not really selling in this market. So again, everything is, what I say to all my developer clients is we just got to price it appropriately. Like if you're priced properly, things are moving. In terms of inventory, I think there's a huge opportunity with the way deposit structures are right now. Like for someone who's looking and they don't need something immediate, there's such an opportunity to get into the market, because if you're buying something now that isn't going to be ready, let's say until 2028, 2029, we're going to have a severe supply shortage then. So like, you know, at that point, the market's going to go back and you have time now to come up with deposits because they've been overstretched. They're overstretching deposits like I've never seen before. But you also have a lot of incentives that you're kind of buying at a price now that we know once we don't have as much supply, like prices ultimately will start to go up, which is normal. And I think it's just the biggest thing I will say is picking the right builders and seeing where the project is at the stage of the project. Because the reality is if they don't hit certain amount of sales and they haven't started construction, they won't move forward. And from a buyer perspective, as long as it's pre-construction, you're covered. Your deposits are in, lawyer trust account. Listen, you lose out on using that money maybe for a year, whatever it is, but like you're okay and you get you earn interest on the deposits. From an agent, it's challenging because you go and spend all this time and some of these builders have clawbacks in their co-ops. And then all of a sudden the commission has to come back, which is not fun. So I think just picking, again, instead of trying to go out to everyone, it's like pick a few that are good, that are strong. And whether they're pre-con and it's a few years out, whether it's a building that's just registered or just occupied that has inventory, they're also motivated to sell because they need to start getting rid of it. So like looking at those, because especially if it's there or if it's like starting occupancy, that building's moving forward, right? So it just depends on the timeline for your clients too.
Fabulous, that's great. So when agents, or these are the type of things then when agents are talking to their clients, what are some key points that they need to educate on? You touched on a little like location being a part of it, the builder, being reputable, knowing they're going to finish the project, they're not going to claw it back. So are there any other kind of little tidbits that agents can really hone in on to really promote to clients to say, hey, here's why you got to be here or there?
Yeah, I would say like the status of where the project is at. So just be careful with that one. Like see like how long.
So how far along have they been selling?
How long have they been selling
cycle?
Or where are they at in their selling cycle? Because you have to start questioning that now, because again, the reality is if they don't hit certain numbers, they can't start construction. So even a reputable builder, they could have a great reputation, but if they don't hit their numbers, they're probably not going to move forward with the project because they need it from a construction financing standpoint. So really paying attention to kind of where the project's at, what stage it's at, the developer.
Have a shovel in the ground. It's nice to see something maybe.
Or if you know that they have enough sales that like really they just need however many more, it's a very low number that they're going to move forward, right? Or some builders are being very creative with the way they're doing their construction financing now that we don't need the typical 70% sold. They're getting it closer to 50. So just understanding those things. Location's a really big one too. Like what's going on in the area? Is there more development? I would say the biggest thing that we didn't pay attention to before is like, what are the comparables of resale?
Yes.
Because that's a really big one, right? Because if you're buying something that's in the middle of somewhere that has buildings that are all 8 to 10 years old, like we're seeing it now when things are being delivered, it's a lot more challenging from an appraisal standpoint.
Of course, they're looking at all the competition in the
and
area.
the competition is like, it's really hard. And appraisers unfortunately don't really, in my opinion, put enough weight on a brand new building versus an older building.
Gotcha. Now let's just talk briefly about blanket appraisals.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that early on in our conversation. So are you sensing that that is a successful tool that we should be leveraging more?
Absolutely. I know there's been a lot of heat on it in the media, but it's a huge tool. I mean, it's saved us on a few of our projects. Closed. We did over.
So a lot of clients are using it.
Because as long as you can get approved through the bank, it saves you, because most people now, like the average, if you bought during the high of COVID, like 2021, 2022, there's a big discrepancy a lot of times with the pricing. And most people don't have $200,000, $100,000, $150,000 lying around.
No, to cover the shortfall.
So I think this approval process is really good because it avoids them from being defaulted, terminated, and at the end being litigated again.
That's right.
So I don't really agree with all the media saying it's a bad thing. You know, I understand that for some people, they're looking at it like, oh, well, you know, it's a lot more higher than what the prices are now, but it's also saving a lot of buyers from being put in a position and being sued. So it's really worked on our end. I think there's a few banks now that are kind of looking at it. They're doing it a few different ways, but I think it's really helpful. And I also just think for anyone, it's a package that we put forward. It just makes it a lot easier for a buyer, especially when they're in a stressful situation now going, okay, what am I gonna do? It's here you go. Like, talk to them. They know the building. They understand the building. The appraisers have been in the building. So it's a lot easier than sending a random bank or a mortgage broker and they're getting a random appraiser and you don't know what's gonna come of it.
And obviously, arguably, the lender is affiliated with the developer. They know the developer. And with blanket mortgages, again, we have to stress, it's important then to have that long-term vision.
100%.
You've got to plan to own this product for at least probably 5 to 10
Otherwise,
years.
it's not going to make sense. And you know that. But you're right. It is a long-term vision. But it's instead of coming into it and, you know, getting a B lender or a high, like a shark mortgage, and now all of a sudden you're paying a really high interest rate, even though it's at the lower price, like you're gonna be stuck in a year. You're gonna be going, what am I doing, right?
Exactly.
So.
And we touched on, again, before we got on camera today, just really the importance of talking to your clients of closing and getting that deal across the finish line. We talked about it a little earlier. Let's dive into that now in terms of what you're seeing as a record number of units are delivered this past year, this current year, and even into next year. Obviously, condo starts, new construction starts are slowing way down. The sales are slowing way down. We're not going to see a lot of deliveries in a few years. Can you talk to us now about really the importance of closing, and really, because we're seeing it now, the idea of not closing and maybe just walking away from deposits and things like that, and really why that's very risky for the client?
Yeah, and I think, to be honest, a lot of agents don't really understand it. So I've been, like I said, I've been mediating a lot between the buyers and the builder, trying to help people close. And I can't tell you how many agents just have no idea. The reality is, if you don't close, it's contractual law. It's very simple.
Yes.
You will be sued. And they will litigate, and sure, litigation can take a few years, but ultimately from contract law, like the builder will win because it's all kind of there.
Yeah, it's on paper.
And what people don't realize is you're not just walking away from your deposit. Whatever we end up selling that condo for later, so I'm just gonna use a number. Let's say it's a $200,000 difference from what you paid. They're gonna sue you for that $200,000 difference. So if your deposit doesn't cover it, because the reality was a few years ago, which we didn't have a lot of people, but if they walked away, the deposit covered it, we moved on, we resold it. There was no real loss for the builder. But now the reality in the market is there very well likely will be a loss. So they're gonna go after you. And that litigation can go on forever. And they can go after, you know, if they get everything through court and it gets approved and the builder's in the right, like they can start going after your wages, like everything, right? So a lot of people think, oh, I'm just gonna walk away from it, it's gonna go away, but it doesn't. The other conversation I've had with some buyers is that I'll just file bankruptcy. And I always scratch my head because in Canada, filing bankruptcy is not an option. Like it follows you around for 10 plus years. It's gonna affect everything in your life. So I think from an agent, like you have to understand what that means for your client. And again, you can only give them the advice. Like, you can't force them to do anything.
No, it's their choice.
But I think you need to be able to sit down with them and say, hey, this is how it works. This is what's happening, because it's happening right now in the market. And the builders, there's already been court cases that they're winning.
Yeah.
This is what's going to happen to you. So are you prepared? Have you tried everything to close first?
Yeah.
Let me introduce you to, a mortgage broker. Let me
don't wait till the last minute to address this, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think so. Some builders are a bit more lenient than others in working with buyers. It just depends on it also depends on their situation. What people don't realize is builders have a construction loan. If they can't pay off their construction loan because people don't close, they're also in a lot of trouble, right?
Yes.
So it just depends on the situation of the site. But like, I have one site where we've brought back, I think I'm close to 15 buyers now back to the table and helped them close.
Wow.
It's taken a lot of hand-holding, you know? And unfortunately, a lot of those agents haven't been involved at all.
No,
they've
so you've had to step in and...
But I think if you do it and you hold their hand, like, it's just, I've built these relationships now with these clients too, that they're thankful, because otherwise no one was really there to help them and guide them. And it makes
the developer's going to love you for it. I mean, talk about relationship building for the long term. I mean, you get these extra deals across the finish line.
I think it's our job. And
no, I get it, but no, that's...
Yeah, I think it's, ultimately, like, for me, I take pride in the projects that I'm a part of, and I want to see them succeed. So I want to see them through. And I feel bad for buyers. I feel bad for the builder, because I know the challenging situation they're in, but I also feel bad. I've had so many buyers, literally grown men, cry to me on the phone because their life has changed, like, their situation has changed. And so it's just trying to help them. And I think we just have to have, sit back and just, again, guide them. I can't control it. Some listen, some don't. And some sometimes do everything they try and they still can't make it work.
No.
It is, but at least you can say you tried.
Say you tried, exactly. Yeah. Again, just stressing the importance of engaging with your client and not avoiding them, because it becomes, with agents in some cases, it just becomes avoidance because you just don't want to hear them on the other, have that tough conversation. But you've got to get out there. It's, again, relationship building, and we'll touch on this now in terms of for the future. Yeah. Right. And so looking at, again, kind of high arching question here, when do you see, what does your crystal ball say in terms of how much longer do you see this going on for in terms of this slowdown in the condo market?
I mean, I think we need to work through the inventory we have right now. So a lot of people aren't launching. I think that's the smart move, to be honest with you. We were supposed to have over 1,000 units come to market this year. We held off on everything with our clients. We need to work through the supply. I personally think it's going to take probably about 2 years to get through it.
Okay.
But I think the thing we're going to see, and we see it, and I've seen it with, Zonda's put out reports, Urban Nation's put out reports, that by 2028, 2029, like, there's going to be very little new development. Yes. And the reality is, in a big city like Toronto, we need more. Yeah. So all of a sudden, we're going to go from a record high of almost 30,000 or just over 30,000 completions to, they're saying by 2029, I think it's going to be like 5,000.
Oh yeah,
that's nothing.
Essentially zero.
We know at that point it's a supply and demand. Like, it's literally simple economics. So at that point, we know that all of a sudden, if there's not that supply, the prices are going to start going up. The demand's going to start going up.
Absolutely.
So I personally think I don't think we'll ever see COVID again. I don't think
the ramp up. Yeah.
I don't think it was normal. I didn't think it was a healthy market.
30,000 new construction units a year. No.
Listen, it was a great market to be in, but I don't think it was normal. Before that, it would take us about 9 months to get to 70% sold, sometimes a year, depending on the project. That was like a normal working market. And that's, I would say, when I was in the market in 2014, 2015, when it was a little slower, but nothing like we're seeing now. No. But again, it was that normal sales cycle. Yes. So I used to tell clients, give yourself at least 12 to 16, 18 months to get to 70%. Like, let's use that number to be safe. I think we'll get back there. Yes. But I do think if we're going to have these record low completions, that there is going to be a bit of a spike at that point, because there's just not going to be the inventory.
No, this is it. And it's going to take, I think everyone needs to understand, like 28, 29 comes along, they're only maybe, a few thousand units, being sold or being delivered, and now you've got to start selling them again. Well, then once you sell them, it's not like construction happens instantly and pop, there's a building. It takes years. So over the next, say, from 28 to you can imagine, 2032, there's going to be a real shortage of of condominium units. It's hard to imagine right now with so many choices right now in the marketplace.
And even low rise. I mean, the reality is there's only so many places to build in Toronto, right?
Yes.
Like, especially low rise, but even high rise. Like, there's less and less lots now. It's, talk about the red tape with the government. It's very difficult to build, the costs and the taxes and the fees. So that's also contributing to the fact that not a lot of things are getting built now, because the numbers just don't make sense for developers anymore.
No, the math doesn't work.
It doesn't work. And it doesn't work for buyers at the prices. And the prices can't go down for developers because their profits, people don't realize the developers' profit now is so minimal compared to very, very slim. So the reality is, unless all these things change, we're going to see a severe supply shortage, and the prices are going to continue to rise. So I think for people who are comfortable with it, who have the money, now is honestly, like, I've never seen incentives and pricing the way I've seen it. Like, there's some pricing I'm looking at downtown, like to buy a studio or one bedroom. I don't think I've seen it since I moved to Toronto 15 and a half years ago. That's when the pricing was, right? So I think there is an opportunity to get in now and sit and, again, as long as you can hold. And the reality is, real estate is about holding. It is about a long term. And I think that rents will come back. And again, because if you look at everything, even rents, we've had so many deliverables. There's just all this inventory on the market. We're not going to be in that situation anymore, and then we're going to have a real supply issue.
Interesting. Cara, thank you so much for your time today. This is amazing. I mean, it's funny. We're very similar. My family, of course, has been in the business a long time. It's great to hear and learn more about your background and your involvement in the industry. It's in your genes, right? It just comes to you, right? And congratulations on all your success. It's great to see, and your knowledge is really second to none in the industry.
Yeah, and I think the difference is, what I say to people too is, especially as an agent, is you have to be in it. Like, I own multiple investment units. Listen, I understand the pain we're going through right now. I'm feeling it. But I understand, like, always, I'm sure your dad used to teach you this too. Like, when you buy real estate, it's a long-term play. You sit and hold.
You never sell it.
You never
He's
sell
always
it.
said,
and that's
never
always,
sell.
it was never, like, I would never buy to just assign it. And I think people just need to realize that it's a blip in the market. We will get out of it. So as long as you try to do everything you can to get through it,
get to the other side of it,
you'll be good.
Okay, that's great. Awesome. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much.
There you had it, everybody. We'll see you next time. Thanks very much.